welcome to the Unofficial Controller Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast, episode 232, with me, George, and this week joined by a freshly returned from the potato peeling cupboard, Seb. He's Longhorn's cook to my Longhorn's cook. Think of that for a moment. What that might mean. I didn't realize.
That's a marinating one.
Yeah, it's a dangerous PG rating in danger. Maybe I just said the same word twice, Seb. You know, it's as simple as that sometimes. How are you, good sir? How was the potato cupboard, and what have you been doing with your good self in your hiatus from, or maybe in terms of
society?
Yes.
The rest of society. But no, I've been doing well. The potato cupboard, you know that feeling when you're in the water too long and your hands get all wrinkly and stuff like that. That's how long the Longhorn had me in there. So, and I smelled straight like spuds. I've just lived perpetually in a mixture of Chick-fil-A and McDonald's at this point, because I'm like, it smells straight like potatoes. I've been in there so long. But anyways.
Would you want to know something exciting?
What's up?
I seemingly impressed Pastor enough to be allowed a pass out and paid for by Longhorn Religious Company Incorporated to be sent
company card.
Time on the company credit card. To be sent to Timeless Gaming Convention in the UK to preach Longhorn's sermon.
How'd that go? Were people ready for the good word of Longhorn?
I don't know if they're ready for the Great Ascension in Barry, UK. I tell you that for one thing. But you know what? They made us feel very welcome. A really great do. We had, depending on how this was recorded, or the last episode and the episode before that was recorded and released. Hopefully this is coming out reasonably close to Timeless. But last week, again, depending on how this was recorded, but I think it was last week, we had the mighty middle-aged gamer on, aka Mags. Someone who's quite rightly inserting himself as the king of the UK gaming con scene, and obviously a successful streamer in his own right. The day was immaculate, smattering of YouTube celebrities and real life big TV gurus like Jason Bradbury, friend of the show. Jason did hit me up in the car park, so keep your ears peeled. We might be bringing him to your auditory senses ASAP, as he's got a film he's working on. Saw the great Ashen's, obviously a guest on the show historically. If you want to check out why we knighted Ashen's, Lord Serrations, you best get in the back catalogue. We had the mighty Slopes there performing a gaming quiz, which was great to see him. He was the first person we saw on arrival, and he made us feel very welcome, did Sir Slopes. He's also knighted, and an historical interview on the show if you want to go back and listen to it, and a plethora of other gaming streamers that we've met through the luxury of doing the show. It was a great day out. Thank you to everyone that came. Boba, Digital Moncrief, Mrs. Digital Moncrief, especially seeing as they've picked up on the fact that I'm a bit blue about not having a fan club, and they all turned up, Seb, right? They all turned up to hear pastors preach. Preach, pastor, preach. He turned up to see that in George t-shirts. I tell you what, I had to stick a prick. That's not the right word. Stick a pin in my ego, get it out the side door, to be honest.
No, it's the prick.
Yeah, stick the prick in me. I see that saying manages to cross the Atlantic.
Some of the stuff you say, I have no idea what you're saying, because some of it gets lost in like the cultural differences. But then like that one, I'm like, I think I understand that reference. I'm like Captain America and Avengers.
I don't even know if it's that, but let's just go with it, because that sounds way more highbrow than what I was saying. And obviously the mighty Scotty from Marathon Gaming came down as well, or came up from his southern location to also make the day very complete. It was a great day out for the UCP, because I took Nancy, the intern that we have here in the UK office, and James, the work experience boy. And they had a thoroughly great time just seeing the smorgasbord of what the UCP had to offer, and a great day out. Hopefully Mags gets this lined up for next year. This year we're very lucky to go along as creators, so we had the luxury of the Creator Lounge, and I even had an Assassin's Creed Mirage coffee. So how does that make you feel?
How did it feel Assassin's Creedy? Like, how did the coffee come across as an Assassin's Creed coffee? Was it like
mid, solid 7?
Okay, gotcha.
proper Ubisoft drink. No, I'll be
Okay.
honest, it was part of their sponsor. And it was actually quite nice. I drink a lot of canned coffees. I didn't hold out high hopes for an energy company to actually deliver something of a high standard, but it was. It was very tasty. And the can looked uber cool as well. So, yeah, do you know what? A great day out. Hopefully it comes back next year. It's in Europe's second. No, it's in Europe's held in Europe's biggest arcade, full of arcade machines, etc. Food, eat, drinks, play the machines all day. A great day out. If you want to find out more about what you missed, I would say tune into last week's episode. And to all those that I met there and are listening now as a byproduct of meeting us on the show floor, thank you. Welcome to the family. And stick
Strap
on
in.
for the ride. Yeah, strap in, because have you ever had a show with Law where the two hosts have joined a court in Texas before? I very much doubt it. I very much doubt it. Off the back of that, arriving back here in El Paso, I think I drifted a little bit from the central tenet that Longhorn preaches. So he locked me in a dark cupboard and hosed me down every other
He
hour.
will do that.
Yeah, he's a strange
He will
cat,
do
Longhorn.
that.
Yeah, but I feel very religious again. So really, have you got any gaming? Have you got any kind of side stories like that to regale us with, or do you want to just punch me straight in the gut with what you've been playing, you handsome dog?
Let's just go with what we've been playing, George. I've been playing. It's more surprise, some indies. I've been playing Bow. Have you heard of this one? Like, it's a Metroidvania.
Is it BOW or BEAU, like the bow of the ball?
It is BO, Path of the Teal Lotus.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we would describe that in the UK. BO is what we would say if someone had body odor, a little bit sweaty pits. We might turn to them and go, "Oof, mate, check your BO out."
That translates across the pond as well. that translates.
If you're one of our many listeners in Nigeria, please let us know if that body odor reference is something you guys get as well, or Germany or Holland or whatever. We want to hear from you. Let us know. Is BO a worldwide phrase?
I think it's now Mr. Worldwide at that point.
Because we said it on this show, Seb, that's why.
Yeah, exactly.
I sometimes think we ought to have the strength and confidence of our convictions. We're a worldwide show. And I sometimes throw the show in the dirt. I think it's part of my humility, but I think it does a disservice. Seb, tell me about this. Is this an indie?
Bow Path of the Teal Lotus. It is an indie. It is a colorful hand-drawn 2.5D action platformer. It's kind of inspired by Japanese folklore, and it is almost like
style, or
yeah. It's almost like it's like that Okami style meets like what is the Xbox? It was an Xbox exclusive. Oh, Ori is kind of like Ori meets Hollow Knight in a lot of ways.
Wow. Okay. So it's got all the ingredients for this to taste like the best meal you've ever eaten. Was it?
I'm not the most enthusiastic like Metroidvania person, so I'm like, I like Metroidvanias, but I don't necessarily love them. I have to kind of be in the mood for them. I feel like this game is beautiful, but it did have some technical hiccups that kind of like prevented me from like getting out of that 7 or 8 kind of range. Is like outside there was
all those, Seth. I mean,
no, it's not bad. I think like if you are playing on a Xbox, a Steam Deck, or God forbid, a Switch, like I think this is a good experience. It's just I do think it does have some frame rate stutters here and there, and like I did kind of get a little bit of like I wish there was a little more of a story focus there. I think they're like it starts off pretty strong with the story and kind of like peters off, and it's more like nebulous about what you're actually doing versus like a concrete here's the story, here's your objectives. I think it's a little more Cuphead in a ways to where like it gets a little wackier, but still with that Japanese folklore. But I think it's a good game. I think people should check it out if they liked Ori and the Will o' the Wisp. And
so they find that on Steam at the moment. Is it made a console release?
I played this on the holy Steam Deck. So praise be to the Steam Deck.
But I saw one right in the UK. This is UK money, but I'll frame it in the worldwide money. I saw one in a famous secondhand store, a technology secondhand store in the UK called CEX. And I could have sworn it was unboxed and it was a bit kicked, but it was $350.
Honestly, you trade in that VR and go with that, you probably have a very solid deal out of that.
I was very, very tempted. The only thing that's holding me back, and we will switch to I haven't been playing this, but I jumped on the VR store on the.
Oh
I
God.
know, that's
Oh God. VR store is like what like phone games were in the early 2000s or like the late 2000s at
Got to
this
do a
point.
little bit of slack trying to remunerate from his £550 PSVR2 friend.
You know, like the PSVR 2 is like the equivalent of you going to the movies and buying like the collector's edition popcorn buckets. You know, like
Yeah.
you're in for a good time at the time. You know, like when you purchase it, you're all excited about it. But then, like the shelf life on those things, you're like, I'm never gonna use this again. When am I ever gonna stick my hands into Wolverine's mouth again?
Let me
Or
tell you one thing. I've got a Rogue One bucket that's
uh-huh.
a popcorn bucket that's been in my drawer, my cupboards in the kitchen for so long. I forget it's in there, and it's become like this sort of receptacle tin for other tins and other popcorn buckets. And jeez Louise, it's like a Russian doll. It's like the Russian dolls of popcorn holders in that cupboard. I detest it. No, I don't. Where this story is going is that I was on the store, and I obviously when VR launched, I did a pretty in-depth and honest review about the
Yeah,
product. It's
a
a
good
good
solid
video.
analysis. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we went there, and I think we came out of it with a glowing, if not a little bit harsh review, but seemingly actually based on the lens that we looked at it through, completely deserved considering the car crash that we find the PSVR 2 world in as we speak. And I was browsing through and I didn't see anything of interest, so I thought I'm going to watch the kayak trailer again. Why not?
Oh no.
Little did I know. I stumbled in there, friend, and I stumbled across. Now, we're on the periphery, I would say, and obviously we're always checking out news and other bits of releases so we can form up the script for the front and back of the show. And I'm into VR, or I try to be. Guess what? They snuck out a DLC for
I was about
Kayak
to say,
VR.
no, no. I knew where this was going.
And it looks great, so I bought it. And it's locked and loaded. And I don't know whether to play it on my own or play it with Rachel or what, because we had a great time on Kayak VR, but yeah, the calling is stronger in you.
Oh no. Resist the dark side. Resist the dark
So I'll spend another bit of money on VR to justify the money that I spent in the first place. I do believe it might be good money after bad, and as I said to Mags in last week's episode, or I think it was last week's episode, I could have bought a real kayak and a holiday abroad.
Yeah, for
Circumnavigate the Italian Rubicon, if nothing else. But instead, I simulate it on my hands and knees on a carpet in a cold room in El Paso.
so let's see, it was $500 initially, then like I think you bought 4 games for it so far at around like what 50 a piece?
One was a chuck-in, which
Okay.
obviously nudged the deal up to 550, I think, initially. So we're at 550 raw.
Okay. Gotcha.
Add in kayak, which was
Can't be more than 20, right?
it's about $15.
Okay, that's solid.
The DLC was about $8.
Okay. Again, pretty solid. All right.
And I haven't bought another game.
Horizon was the one that came with it, right?
Horizon's what came with it. I played an awful lot of No Man's Sky, which you already owned and got a
Okay.
free upgrade, and kayak.
Oh, it's not so bad. You're almost
dude,
almost at
hang
the
on.
$600 point.
Whenever did anyone frame up an acquisition of a technological machine and go, its attach rate at 1.5? That's good. That's awful. It's been
I
out.
think it's awful for sure. But I was thinking, you're up to. I thought maybe you were in the red for like $800, all things considered. And I'm like,
if you
500.
throw in the purchase price of the PS5, things start to get very desperate.
Oh, that is rough. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
Luckily,
At that
it's
point,
been in not little installments. It's been in bite-sized chunks of PS4, 5 launch.
mm-hmm.
Where am I? I'm 2014 here, dude. PS5 launches, fine. 2 years pass. Here's some more money, Sony. I don't know if you want to add into this part because Mags, we were talking about VR2 last week, and he
Mhm.
came in punching at the portal, and I'll be honest with you, he told me I should have bought a backbone. I'll be
I
honest,
think I think
I
you
did.
probably should have. I'm like, I kind of agree
Right,
with
you're
Max
done as
there.
well. You're toast.
I was like, I kind of agree with Max as well. Like, you have a phone, buy the $30 attachment portal. They even make a Sony version of it now,
Yeah,
to
I
where I'm
know.
like,
And you know what? That's great. And I did get a little bit harsher about Backbone last week.
you
But
also probably have an old phone laying around.
I do.
Yeah,
I've
I
had
was
to go
like,
with a Backbone. And it's the most unrewarding piece of tech I've ever bolted to a phone in the history of man. It's no better or worse than the Portal, but you end up holding a crunchy piece of plastic either side of your decaying mobile.
I get that. I
It's
get
not a
that.
cool look. And the Portal is I was not on the fence, Seb, in any way, because I gave the Portal a real rough ride till I bought one. And I'm all in. I'm all over the Portal Reddit, mate. That's
Then you
probably
join the
where
dark side.
yes, where I'm spending 99% of my time. And the weird thing about the Portal Reddit is there aren't any recommends for the Portal games because the Portal's just a streaming device. So you get loads of people on there. Can you recommend me a good PS5 game from a Portal?
You know, here's my theory, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I could be dead wrong about this.
You're
I feel
probably
like
right.
I feel like there's a collection of PS5 gamers, and you might be a part of this. You can tell me if you are or not, but like that often look for a piece of technology to defend. Like there was a
Oh,
Vita, there was the
let's go
Vita.
through this case at a time. Vita, I got too late and had a reasonably good experience with
Mhm.
because it ticked my mobile lifestyle at the time.
The
Is it better
PSP, I
now?
would argue people had to defend that too.
Um, PSP, I don't know. Depends how you look at the PSP. I was reading an article about that the other day, a quite in-depth one, and measured against the DS, absolute car crash. Although,
Yeah.
when you sell multiple millions of consoles, could it ever be measured as a metric of a car crash? I don't
I don't know.
know.
Ask Microsoft now.
Mm, I think
I was like,
I think the PSP might be something that Xbox would love to have had in their portfolio, if I'm honest with you. But in terms of successes of handhelds, it didn't probably do as well. Vita was worse. I'm here to defend the experience I had with the Vita, but I would never defend it in a crowded room to tell people it was the best handheld ever made. Handheld ever made, absolutely not. The VR1, I had a good experience with it. Was it a flawed piece of kit ultimately? Yeah.
and that made you buy a Move controller.
The problem is VR at the time of VR1 was hot, and I didn't want to have to go buy a £1,500, $1,500 PC to then buy the $300-400 headset to enjoy it. So when the insanely popular PS4 secured itself a VR headset, bit of a no-brainer. So I can kind of defend that a little bit. The VR2, as much as I try, I can defend the tech and the experience. I can't defend the lack of games. I can't defend the lack of support. I can't defend dropping it like a hot stone. I can't defend making it a PC peripheral and probably denying it was ever for your £500 machine in the first place. Portal, I can defend. I've had a good experience with it. It's changed up the way I play my PS5. Would I stand there in the cold light of day and stare someone in the eye and say, if you wanted to stream your console, you're better off spending £200 rather than £100? No, I wouldn't. But what I would say is if what your experience on the PlayStation is important to you, get the Portal. If you just want to play your games on the bus, if there's Wi-Fi, get the Backbone. But it's
I
horses for
I
courses.
I agree with you. I almost think the opposite. I'm like, spend the extra $100 at that point, and buy a used Steam Deck at that point, and then stream your PlayStation games through that Steam Deck and through the Xbox. I'm just saying. I'm like, have your cake and eat it too, man.
Yeah,
You've been
just
circling around this, buying every other device but the Steam Deck. When perfection is in your eyes, but you just want to look. You want
oh
all
well.
these
Let's
unsavory things.
before we get there, let me take
All
you.
these unsavory things.
Let me take you to an even more as far as you're concerned. Let me take you to a very unsavory place. Is
Oh
there
no, the
anything else you've
Switch.
been playing? before.
Oh no, he's been playing the Switch. I I've been playing Dungeons of Hinterberg.
Now Mags brought this to my table last
Mhm.
week, and I do believe you'd mentioned it the previous week. So my ears pricked up when I heard a second party coming to me about this game. It looks beautiful. How does
Mhm.
it play?
It plays well. I mean, it's almost like Zelda meets like open world Zelda, that is, meets probably, I would say, Persona in a way, because you have the
That's an
open.
interesting headed baby you've just
That's
delivered me.
that really is, isn't it? So here's the reason why. It's because like you're walking around the town, you're going from dungeon to dungeon. It's open world, just like Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and Breath of the Wild was. The arcadey combat is very much like Zelda. You also have the puzzles that you have to figure out, just like Zelda's. The was it temples?
Yeah,
It
shrines
was
and
it temples?
temples.
Yeah, the
Temples and
temples and
shrines.
such a the shrines and temples, yeah. So you have that same kind of concept that you kind of use your tools to kind of figure all that kind of stuff out. It is very
Nice.
heavily Zelda inspired in that way. I didn't like those two
What
Zelda
one
games, so
one question I've got for you is the thing that piqued my interest most is obviously it's also a skiing stroke snowboard simulator. This is a strange concept based in the German Alps. What's the winter sports element of it like?
you don't quite see that as heavy. I mean, it's there a little bit, but it's not the predominant thing about that
Is it
game. It's
rewarding like mini game or distraction within the main flow, or what did you
But
think
yeah, I
about it?
mean, yeah, it's very much the the reason why I say Persona is like it is almost like a Persona mini game of like a Persona activity of like you do that to
Mm.
raise other stats that you can then take into your open world dungeon touring.
What,
So I'm
so
like,
the persona element is the social aspect which boosts your sort of social stats, to use a persona phrase, right? Your
booyah.
your your
That's exactly right.
sociability, right? And how does that work its way back in gameplay? That brings your team together tighter, or what's the end result of
No,
this?
you're a single person, so it
Right.
brings your single stats higher. So I'm like, you hang out with different people, like different people are almost like just like Persona, where like it affects like a certain element of your combat. It's
Yeah.
just like that. So I'm like, you can hang out with a photographer. He'll like increase your Zen, and that'll raise your health bar. Like different things like
Right.
that. So I'm
That's
like, you hang out
interesting.
with so yeah, I this feels like an RGT or George game more than it feels like a Sebastian game, but I think it's still a pretty good play. I do feel like
If you had
I
to lob a dirty number on it, though, Seb, what number would you give it?
I'm very much a stingy reviewer. Like even if you look at my site,
I
I
know.
hire
I've
yeah.
noticed.
Yeah,
But
I'm a stingy
better
reviewer,
to
but
err on the side of caution. So when you do give something, I think it's better to be reserved on these games. But do it the justice of a worded review, so you can explain the rationale behind it. But that means that when you give an 8, a 9, or God forbid a 10, it's got weight.
I did give this an 8. So like I gave this an official 8 out of 10. I think this is I think this is a really fun time. I actually like this more than the open world Zelda games, but that's because the persona element to me like made me more engaged in the story, whereas Zelda, I felt like I had already seen that story before in the Avatar
I'll be
shows.
honest, was Zelda needed to shake some things up because they got away with Breath of the Wild and they got away with the Tears of the Kingdom, but there's absolutely no way the Switch 2 and an ever growing and frustrated user base. I know people are going to say, but Breath of the Wild was great. Yeah, it was great. And it was an evolution of the franchise. But
Nobody
if we're
talks about that story though. They always talk about the gameplay.
exactly, and we're heading towards a 4K, 8K universe, are we going to be happy reading a text with a Simish voice in the background in 8K? Exactly that. Now it saves them money on, actors and worldwide sort of harmonization and translation. But ow, it's starting to come across a little bit third rate, if I'm honest.
I think with the rise of indies and you start to, and this is my thing about Nintendo games right now as a whole, the rise of indies and like how much I've actually consumed indie games to me as like Nintendo as a whole, besides their upper echelon things, always feels indie because like they, you see the voices in indie games because they can't pay for voice actors. You see
Yes,
you see the cartoon like art styles because that's cheaper to make than actual like 3D rendering for like realistic art styles. So I'm like,
absolutely.
I think Nintendo needs to take that step up because indie games are taking that step up, and your product needs to look better than, especially when you have that higher MSRP, needs to look better than indie games at $30 or $40. You know?
Totally agree. And I also see the indie studios now, obviously with the advent of Unreal 5 and the upskill of these kind of very friendly platforms that will almost allow you to put your game anywhere.
Oh, not
Ninty,
only that, the refresh rates, the like
yeah,
frame rates and such like that are still superior, whereas like
Ninty
Zelda's
have
in
got a
30.
long, yeah, exactly. And Ninty got a long way to go. I think Switch 2 is going to hit well. That's my prediction. I think it's going to sell well. I
Mhm.
think we don't realize how suppressed the market is for a new Nintendo piece of hardware. And I think we will be pleasantly surprised by Switch 2's, at least initially. And I think if they succeed initially, they'll ride it out because they know how to push a system over its lifetime and actually get some good bang for their buck out of it. I mean, they have milked that Switch, the light, the OLED, all the different variations. People, yeah, I'll tell you where I'm at. Joy-Con breaks, fine. I'll throw it in the bin. I'll buy another one. Right. So how many
God,
Joy-Con packs have they sold? Countless. There's a little bit of Xbox 360ism in there with like how many of these Joy-Cons have you sold it? How many should have been warranty? But either which way, whatever you need, guys. So yeah, interesting time for them. Switch 2's going to be a success. They're going to roll it in with something or other, aren't they? Possibly 3D Mario. I'd say it's his turn. It's his turn to jump.
I'm gonna say
Uh,
that first 2 years is like an automatic success. I think it's like that back 2 years when people are over the novelty of having a new Switch is where people are going to question,
and
okay, what's next? Like, where's the next evolution?
I actually see if Switch 2 can enable some extra facilities within Switch 1 games, either on purpose or by accident because of the higher processing power and the alleged backwards compatibility. I think there's another 6 months on top of that 18 of people like Digital Foundry and a myriad of YouTubers and gamers getting hold of their back catalogue and or games they've already finished and or games that were overlooked at launch, like Outer Worlds, which didn't perform very well. And they're all going to get re-stress tested. There's so much.
Nintendo's not giving you like Nintendo games, like Nintendo first party games aren't giving you that for free. They're gonna charge you that extra $10 and give you the Switch 2 version.
I can't
I'm just being real with you. I'm just being real with you. Y'all ponies are gonna suck it up, and y'all are gonna pay that extra $10 to $20 to play the Switch 2 upgraded version.
Let me tell you one thing for sure, and I'll probably regret this, but I won't be paying for Switch 2 upgrades. I'd like to see what CD Projekt Red did with obviously The Witcher on Switch, if they enabled a patch for that to go onto the Switch 2 without paying for an upgrade. It depends where Ninty's at, whether they want to monetize an upgrade system or whether they want to do it like Sony or Xbox have kind of done on a developer by developer basis, depending on budgets, etc.
Third party is probably going to give you that for free. First party is like, nah, bro.
It depends whether they're contractually obliged to give it for free or no. I've got a funny
Yeah,
feeling Ninty have probably looked at this and gone,
nah, dog.
no.
No, dog. Go back to the drawing board. You at least better put a 5 on it. Like,
I don't even know where I've gone after that.
so what have
God.
you? Can I do it in the George? What have you been playing?
The observation is immense. What have I been playing? Okay, so you weren't here last week, but we ended up doing the episode of Mag as a preview for Timeless. He
Mm-hmm.
came to our El Paso and spoke to me through the fence, so with the laws intact.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
The law, protect the law at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I had to hastily come up with the in-law reason why I was in Bury. I mean,
Yeah,
I got a tan though. Got a tan, so El Paso's done me something.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Do you like video games, podcasts, and reminiscing? I'm actor, video game writer, and total sweetie pie Connor Savage McCabe, and on each episode of Call Me By Your Game, I sit down with a guest for an intimate look at a special game from their past. Did you and your dad beat Spyro the Dragon over the holidays? Or was Halo 4 the one thing that united your roommates during your senior year of college? Stories like these are what Call Me By Your Game is about. From video game content creator Janet Garcia to Hades voice actor Courtney Vinay's, I interview wonderful comedians and game industry friends about these memories. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe someday you'll call me by your game.
I mean, like Pastor Longhorn let you off the reservation. He just has the guards full of mayonnaise to just watch you the whole time. It's more uncomfortable to go off the beaten path because, like, there's two guys who just have a tub of mayonnaise that they'll slab on you yelling shame if you do anything unsoundly or what he deems unsoundly and such like that. And they have these little webcams on their like chest and everything so he can see you still while you're out and about.
Pastor's eyes.
He's like the Eye of Sauron, except
have you drank any of the pasta vasa?
No, I'm avoiding the Kool-Aid as much as possible if I'm being honest.
So beautiful. It changed my whole perception of the cult. Listen, before we go to
that's generally how the Kool-Aid works.
Now you tell me. I'm 8 liters into it a day. What was I going to tell you? Yes, so I've been on vacay, as we call it here in El Paso, right? And I played a little bit of Switchy because there was no guarantee of internet where I was going. Hence, okay, all right, I'm here. I put my head above the parapet. You might as well kick me in the portal balls here because what? No internet, George, and your £200 piece of tat becomes literally about as useful as a dog poop. Yeah, I hear.
It's a paperweight. That's a good paperweight.
I hear all the criticism. You're right. So I took the Switch on holiday, and while I was there, I played some Final Fantasy. I played a hell of a lot of MLB 23, the show, which I've had on there for obviously over 12 months now. It's, to be fair,
why do you double dip on the show?
And I'm a PlayStation user, so I double.
I was like 3 times. That's why I was like, why are you double dipping?
I double dipped to the most financially unrewarding level possible and paid full hawk for MLB. Look, do you know what? They give away a Games Pass. Someone's got to buy it. It's me. And
you're doubly supporting it. You're like, I gotta keep this thing afloat.
I am nothing without MLB. I've got to keep this thing. I've got to keep this thing alive. If Microsoft ain't doing it, I'll do it on my own. Thoroughly enjoyed that. This week, games-wise, trying to think what I've been tearing into, to be honest. I haven't had a great deal of time. I think yesterday evening, I played until the very early hours, No Man's Sky, which I always...
God, it's the addiction that keeps growing. It's your Harvestella at this point.
It's way beyond Harvestella, dude. It's a very dark... I think if I was to do the maths a little brutally... We're 1,000. I think we're over 1,000 hours deep on that bad boy, and I don't say that with any pride.
No, I get it. I mean, I think like we all have those games to where like we've played a disgusting amount of hours into, and we're just like, that's my game. That's my guilty pleasure. Go back to you at any given point in my life game.
I know, and I wanted it to be Anno, and Anno is absolutely grade A, but I played the wheels off Anno, and there wasn't much left to do. So, yeah, No Man's Sky is the game that keeps on giving. Plus, they keep throwing the content at it. But, yeah, on that note, I am a little excited for the Roman Anno. But if it plays even slightly differently, I'm done.
No!
Yeah, Anno 1800 or nothing. FTW. I think that brings us to the news, and we've scoured the very darkest regions of the internet to bring you the latest stories. First up, as you know, on the UCP, we don't do leaks and we don't do rumours. Oh, yeah, we do. A little bit of lazy journalism. I say that, although I have been all over the message boards, forums, and usual places where I might pick up on these little nuggets, and I can't substantiate this one way other than a bit said this is big news, and if it does land, my goodness, sir. So let's just digest this for a moment. A big gaming event's around the corner, and as usual, rumours have begun appearing from every direction. The latest scuttlebutt doing the rounds online starts with Shinobi 602, a notable source currently working at Keyword Studios, apparently. Xbox will reveal the next of its first-party titles going multi-platform during Jeff Keighley's opening night live show. Responding to users over on a gaming forum, Reset Era Shinobi is heavily suggested we'll learn about the next Xbox game heading to PlayStation next week during Gamescom's main showcase. One person wondered when we'd see the next round of ported games, to which he replied, "What are you doing next week?" He followed up this with a response to a question on whether we'd see multiple Xbox games confirmed for other platforms. "I don't know about multiple," he says, "but at least one big one. It's been speculated by many that Starfield could be the next candidate for a port to PlayStation, but Forza Horizon 5 is also in the conversation. This is because another insider, Extas1S, do you know what these usernames make of them, what you will, responded to the room with a GIF reading Feliz Cinco de Mayo, a Mexican holiday in the open world race race set in Mexico. To complicate matters,
Cinco de Mayo.
where I'm from, dude, that's Mayo. I thought it was a place where they celebrated mayonnaise. This is one of those moments where the translation can work the other way. Cinco de Mayo, you're correct. A Mexican holiday location. I think it's the birthplace of mayonnaise. Can't wait to see the AI art all over the Discord for that misstep. I misspoke, as a politician would say in the UK. To complicate matters, Windows Central's Jez Corden has weighed in on the rumours, writing that his sources indicate Forza Horizon 5 will not be announced for PS5 next week. He can't confirm whether Xbox will announce a PS5 port at Gamescom opening night live, but does note Shinobi 602 is very reliable, which is all the kind of tick in the box we need for that, in my opinion, and it's just likely a matter of time before he's proven right. It's a messy rumour, as I have detailed. It's hard to unpick and restitch, but Microsoft has said more of its games are coming to other platforms. We've seen several across PlayStation and Switch. Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Grounded, Sea of Thieves, platform-specific, obviously, and Gamescom seems like a good venue as any to reveal what's coming next. Guess we're going to have to tune into Jeff's show to find out for ourselves. Seb, now, we don't do leaks and we don't do rumours, but we've been all scratching our heads about what might be next for Microsoft Studios and their multi-platform strategy that was leaked to much frustration, I would say, in the gaming sphere and excitement of equal measure. We've all wondered and speculated. Obviously, Starfield's been chucked around. There's some other things in the back catalogue, like Gears of War Trilogy, Master Chief Collection. Forza Horizon 5 feels like a safe bet. Where does this take Microsoft and their core users? Or has Forza Horizon 5 been bled dry already?
Nah, man, I don't think it's Forza. I don't think it's Forza at all. So I'm like, I think on two things. If you're PlayStation, would you want Forza on there when you have Gran Turismo?
I mean,
Gran Turismo is your own in-house studio that you get almost...
I hear that 100%, but my only thing about Forza Horizon 5 is I can't remember who I was having this conversation with. Might have been a family member. But Forza Horizon 5 is a very different game. Forza Horizon 5 and its predecessor have found the ability to stick on people's rotation on Xbox because it's a quick, I'm going to have 5 minutes on X on Forza. Going to have quick. It's a more arcadey and rewarding initially driving game, arcade driving game.
You know that, but does the mainstream know that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I was just like,
and I'll tell you what though, if Test Drive Solar Crown finally comes out and has to walk up against a multi-formatted release Forza Horizon 5.
Yeah, so I'm like, here's the thing, like, most gamers who are not hardcore gamers, and one, that keep up with news stories, are two, most gamers who aren't super car enthusiast gamers they don't care about the difference between Forza Horizon versus Forza Motorsport versus Gran Turismo. It's a car game, you know, like at that point, it would be cheaper for PlayStation to have a third party deal with the Dirt team to get the next Dirt game than it would for them to just port over an Xbox led Forza Horizon game that they would then have to pay almost 40% of the profits back to Xbox for. I'm like,
Isn't this part of Xbox strategy though, just to hurt them internally by using their own implanted users to harvest through their own games that they've already had? Well, I don't know if they've remunerated through Forza Horizon 5. I haven't looked to see what the development cost was, but one would imagine they have remunerated through Forza Horizon 5, or at least broken even on the project.
yeah.
Would it
I
not
think
make
this
sense
is.
to throw this into the smorgasbord and literally pull the carpet from under PlayStation's feet? Because I would buy Forza Horizon 5 for its arcade play and
I think this makes sense for like consumers and for Xbox. I don't think this makes sense for PlayStation. And I think like
absolutely not. But what choice do they have?
they have plenty of choices. They're in the lead in console sales. They have a own SKU that directly, whether or not like it's mainstream or not, competes with that SKU that they don't want to marginalize sales on.
Yeah, but they didn't say no, nor break in any way Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Grounded, or Sea of Thieves. In fact,
they don't have any competitors that's comparable to any of those, though. Like they don't produce directly anything that's like Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Grounded, or
so you see PlayStation shielding this off from their console to protect their own IP's validity.
To protect their own IPs and validity, and if they're doing a handshake deal with Microsoft to where like they're getting something else, they want something completely different. They're going to want something. They're going to want something. I mean, let's be honest. They're going to want something different, and like Forza is going to do well as far as the install base and numbers and such like that. But if you're Xbox, but if you're PlayStation, and if you're Xbox, I think what the game that makes more sense to get across to that board is Hellblade at this point. Hellblade for Xbox did not sell well. It's not doing nearly what Xbox probably wants them to do at that point. And it's not
further double down that Games Pass was a mistake. Hellblade 2 critically.
I don't think this is a reflect. I do think like two things can be true. This can be a reflection on Game Pass, but this is also a reflection on Xbox's marketing. And we talked about this in a previous episode of like no one heard one iota about Hellblade before it came out.
What the funny thing is, while we had that discussion on air, and obviously we were on to something because and I can't remember if we rolled this news into the episode or not, or whether it's something I read and never reported, but some of the Xbox marketing team actually kind of broke silence and came forward with the comment of, I wish we had what they had to advertise our products, which
you have the biggest coffer of like money out there. Yeah. Like,
but to me,
have anybody
picture of what's happening at Microsoft Towers, because they've spent the money acquiring studios. Does that mean now that they can't spend anything on anything else? Because the marketing team complaining they don't have the budget of PlayStation, and as one of the largest corporations in the whole of the world, makes me very confused.
So here's the thing. Here's what a lot of the reports are saying about Xbox's internal studios right now. It's like Amy Hood, who's the executive vice president and the chief financial officer at Microsoft. And, a lot of the Microsoft executives have now, put pressure on Xbox to be more financially stable and also recoup the budget for a lot of their projects. Forza has already recouped a lot of their budget, which is something you just said a minute ago. Hellblade has not. Hellblade hasn't come close to that. And if you're getting pressure from the big wigs like Amy Hood and such like that to recoup a lot of your marketing budget, you're going to probably choose Hellblade over and Starfield, because Starfield didn't do nearly as much as many numbers as you wanted it to at that point.
The sad thing is, if Starfield had been multi-platform, I think it wouldn't have delivered to the success of some of their previous big hitters.
No, but it'd been more successful for sure.
It would have broken even.
Yeah, I'm like
the sad part of that. It would have broken even.
Yeah. So I think like the crazy thing about all those is like, I think Starfield, with the expansion coming up, has a more likely chance of being multi-platform at this point in time. And then you got Hellblade, which let's face it, the people at Ninja Theory are probably shaking in their boots that they're going to lose their job, just like, Tango Gameworks did before the news about Tango broke out.
That's the sad part. They've got the talent, and I don't think it's not the developers. They've made, let's call it a game. Let's call it an experience. They made a great experience that needs to be played to be understood, and it needs to be played to understand its relation to the first game as well, which was equally as not only beautiful but certainly mentally rewarding game experience. Call it what you like.
Yeah, for sure.
That to me is a sign of they're getting it right. And if it had been multi-platform from the get-go, would it be washing its face right now? Yes, it would. So then,
are we talking about Starfield or Hellblade?
We could frame it to apply to both, actually.
Okay, gotcha.
Starfield, probably not the critical darling they thought it would be, but from
neither is Hellblade.
Well, yeah, but by any metric, you would say that they weren't stinkers. We're not talking 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s here. We're talking 7s, 8s, and in some cases 9s, which I think by any critical reference is a good score, and one that the casual go, oh crikey, I need that. And that's you need an 8 or a 9 to get the casual to wake up and smell it, to sip the Kool-Aid, the pasta as we're now calling it, right? So,
do y'all have Kool-Aid over there?
No.
What do you have? Marmalade? What is the cheap drink?
It's a bread spread.
Thank you. It's okay. Cultural difference there.
I mean, if you keep going the way you're going, hopefully Pastor will let me and you come to the UK for a one-off thing, and then I will cover you in marmalade.
What is it? Marmite? Is that the drink?
Marmite is not a drink either. Marmite is a...
Oh, for two.
I think somewhere in there I had a really solid point about Microsoft, but it's lost.
You did. I'm sorry.
It's lost
so sorry.
now in a yeast extract, which is a byproduct of the brewing process, and it has this kind of the marketing campaign for Marmite. And I've had to explain this because we had a Marmite Games episode, so the American audience need to have explained to them what Marmite is. But it's got a very unusual taste that you either love, as the advertising says, or you hate. And there is no delineation. You don't find someone who goes, yeah, I don't mind it. You either find someone who loves it, like myself, I love a bit of Marmite, or people who detest it. The smell of it makes them physically sick.
So it's a spread, right?
It's another bread spread. Now, what we do over here in the UK is we grill our bread. I think you've had toasters as well. I think I've seen those in the States when I've been over. But it's
over the years we've developed that technology.
Yeah. Okay. Simultaneously developed the bread toasting technology.
Yeah.
I love it. I thought it was like the UK's NASA, but obviously not. We've shared this information because we are the special relationship stretches to bread.
No, the espionage team over here, snuck out in one toaster. We're like, we can reverse engineer it. We can do this. We can make it happen.
It's not Roswell. It's just a toaster. We're fine.
Yeah, just the toaster.
So obviously, then in the US, you also have grilled breaded products that you spread a little bit of cow lactate on, aka butter, and then a spread of your choice. Now you call them jellies, we call them jams. Same thing, really. Marmalade falls into the same category as a jelly.
Oh, that makes sense.
So it's a sweeter spread. Whereas your Marmites and your Bovrils, which is a beef extract, which is similar tasting to Marmite, even though there is no meat in Marmite, it has a similar kind of feeling, but it's a little bit more acceptable. Yes.
Let me ask you if this is acceptable. What game would be acceptable to the masses for Xbox to port over to PlayStation at Gamescom?
I'll answer that question, but just further my point. Something is going wrong with Xbox's marketing division where these games they need to be pushed to be seen. And I feel like Hi-Fi Rush, another example of a game that was great, critically reviewed well. It got a push. It got a second push when it went multi-platform, but you wouldn't really have thought so. The only thing that carried Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush and Grounded and Sea of Thieves into the waiting arms of the multi-platform users was the very
vitriol about it going multi-platform.
Exactly. The very unfortunate news that broke in a very unfortunate way about those games going multi-platform. It kind of was the advertising budget in itself. One would wonder if you're a guerrilla marketing team with a budget of 0, leaking that news, sold 1 million copies of each. They don't. Have
Here's a
that
question
fortune.
before you answer the other question, because I think this one's more interesting. It's like, I do see both sides of it here. Like, I've always been critical of the Xbox marketing team, but then I'm also of the thing of like, on the mainstream side of the fence, I don't really think you have a game to market lately. Like,
No, no.
I think testers got their hands on Starfield, told them that this was going to be a 6 or 7 out of 10, and they're like, "Oh, we got to scale back the marketing on that because the reception is not going to be great on that." Then they've also had Redfall. I don't know why they put that out to begin with, but like testers probably gave them that. They were like, scale back the marketing on that.
Let's pause there and double back to Redfall. Obviously, we've seen other developers, Microsoft included, take high-profile projects, get them to the point of release, do the kind of simulated testing and review, find out the game's not hitting where they want it to do, and then, specifically in the US, but it does apply in UK tax law and financial law, that you can write that off and use it to offset your tax. So it's not a complete death knell to your business. Why didn't Microsoft just kill Starfield, or was it too big a name after all the hype to kill?
I think they have, in the one, it's too big of a name. The two, I think like there are certain things in the legal legislator of like a merger that certain projects have to be fulfilled and such. So I'm like, I think that was one. And, I don't think like the tax write-off on that would have been, I think they thought, hey, financially, we can recoup a lot of our budget, or if not the whole entire thing.
Good luck with that, guys.
Yeah. It's the movie, the theater, like, experience has a lot of this problem right now too, to where I'm like, we've seen a lot of stinkers. Borderlands could have been a write-off, like the Borderlands movie that
should have been a write-off, because although saying that, they have seen allegedly a boost in activity on the game.
14 million of on the game side of things, but that only helps Gearbox. That didn't help like the studio actually publishing.
Yeah, but you know what? Gearbox signed away probably their most recognizable franchise to a film studio and got 14 million downloads off the back of it. It's a double payday for them. So I can't help but say, yes, it's good, but it does, as you say, illustrate your point of that didn't work for Hollywood.
No, I mean, it's like if you're Gearbox, you got like that. This sort of helps you because like people want to go back to the good version of Borderlands. But if you're Lionsgate, you're thinking to yourself, like, why would I want to make another video game movie? We lost, I think they said it was $140 million production budget, and they only got 14 million of that back so far. I'm like, it's right now being called one of the biggest flops of the last 20 years. On top of that,
one nugget that's just popped in my mind, I want to lob back into the conversation, if I may, and I don't know if this
go ahead.
What you're saying is obviously the article and the comments by Microsoft's head of or Xbox division's head of marketing, alluding to the fact that they wish they had the same budget as PlayStation. But obviously the budget, much like a film, for the advertisement and the kind of getting the game's name out there, for want of a better set of words, is attached a figure, normally millions of dollars, which is then attached on top of the game's budget, much like a movie.
Yeah, for sure.
That the game then has to wade through before it truly breaks even. So you can pay back your development costs, the 250 million that's often circulated around for a modern day internally developed AAA game. But then you add on, and we've talked about how PlayStation literally makes sure every bus, window, door, laptop screen,
a $50 million budget, for marketing.
And that $1 million budget is spent. That makes it even harder. Is there an element here of Microsoft saying, look, we don't want to further complicate Starfield's return to profitability by literally killing it with an equidistant game development budget to advertising budget. And we're going to slap this on every bus, coaster, and Burger King meal between here and El Paso.
I think it shows how much you believe in a product, too, though. I mean,
it does show a level of belief, but it also does further compound your remuneration.
Yeah, for sure. But
if you don't spend any on marketing, the hole you have to backfill is already far shallower.
It's so big. Yeah, it's like, I get it. I do get it. There's so much minutia of like, should you do this? Should you do that? As far as the marketing budget goes, like Sony believes in their products. They believe in their quality. They believe in the talent of their studios, and like they believe that the testing for those often turns out better than not. And like even with games like Days Gone, which has a cult like following, they'll advertise for it. Xbox, like Xbox, and I think this is Xbox believes in their products, I believe. I think Microsoft is like the overseer that's like, hey, what do you think the projection is going to be on that? Okay, based on your projection, here's your advertising budget. And it's often probably Neil,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
No,
it's
I
often.
agree, but I don't see how you get a plane in the air if you cut its wings off every time you bring out a new one.
The crazy thing is like I think the last time I saw a trailer for a Microsoft game was the occasional trailer for Game Pass because that's their bread and butter, and I think I remember seeing a Xbox Infinite, like a Halo Infinite trailer. I think I can remember
Definitely.
that.
I actually remember there being some YouTube trailers for Redfall.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the YouTube trailers for Redfall, but I didn't think like I'm trying to remember like watching something.
By that I mean interstitial ads on a product.
Okay, thank you.
Unrelated. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm like, I think I remember the occasional Redfall one, but like, I think that goes to show you, I'm like, I don't remember Starfield. I don't remember that. And Starfield came around the time of like, I think the baseball playoffs were going on around that time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you have big in the NBA was just kicking up. I'm like, I think if you don't see those on the sports market, then are you advertising? Because that's probably like a large sum of your demographic.
No disrespect to anyone that would call themselves a casual gamer, but one would imagine that's probably where your casuals are when they don't have a joypad in their hand. Worldwide.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Pretty obvious.
I guarantee you we're going to see commercials at the, and for several sporting events this fall for Call of Duty. Like, it's just going to happen. Like,
well, they're going to have to find a marketing budget for that because that marketing budget is probably going to be the biggest marketing budget that team has ever handled, unless
it's still the Activision. I think that's going to say
unless they force them to manage it themselves. But there has to be some cross integration between those two teams because there needs to be Games Pass integration. They're going to need to use that to push Games Pass in itself because it's the best ticket they've had to this point to get people to take Games Pass. So I agree with you about Activision handling it, but there going to have to be, especially now, some cross-divisional conversations and sort of responsibilities taken.
I think Microsoft is going to look. I think it's the exercise that I talked about earlier. They're going to look to see how much is the profit line projected to be, and we'll throw in some marketing money because of that. I do think like Xbox is going to market. Yeah, I mean like Microsoft is going to market Call of Duty because like they're like, oh, we're going to market that. Now Stalker 2, on the other hand, they're going to be like, oh, we tell them to send some gameplay trailers over, and we're going to send that to Fiverr, and we're going to make a couple of trailers off of that.
Oh God, because that's probably how it gets done.
Yeah, that's we're going to send that over to Fiverr.
I don't know how any positive way to spin off of this. I just still live in hope that Xbox gets
really quick. Make a prediction. Like make a prediction. What do you think is going to be the like? Let's say we're guaranteed one game to be ported over. What's the prediction?
Listen, I take on board everything you say about Starfield, and I do to some point agree. But I think actually this has a sniff of something else about it. I think this is almost we need cash. What's our best chance? And I believe that best chance is Forza Horizon 5. I don't believe
I do think that's the best chance.
Yeah, I think Starfield, unfortunately, has a little bit too much weight on its shoulders for them to be able to remunerate in a quick fashion. I think Starfield's a sort of slow burn. You've got to hype people up. You've got to let that DLC land and then push a Game of the Year version, which could be another 6 to 12 months away. So I think it'd be Forza Horizon 5. Obviously, you've thrown your ball down in the court of Starfield, so it'd be interesting to
Starfield or Hellblade, yeah. Because I think because I think they're going to want to recoup money back for both of those.
I think independently, especially as a still image, let alone the trailer, a real head-turning thing So it would be nice to see something come back for them from Hellblade. Let's face it, they wouldn't have had any better success if they'd had Hellblade captured from day one and released that as an exclusive.
I think Hellblade was doomed to die either way, but you know.
What I like about Hellblade is it really did do some interesting things with audio, mental health, gaming as an experience while still being wrapped with a gaming cloak. It did a lot of good things, but probably not things that mean that you've got cash in the till, sadly. Give me this chunky next bit of news, and then we'll it's news in itself, but then I want to frame up a conversation with you, good sir.
Okay. I'm gonna paraphrase this next story, everybody. Just bear with me. Okay. It's a game about the past. It can come out in the future. Warhorse Studios has officially announced the release date for its anticipated sequel, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. While initially penciled in for 2024, the medieval RPG has been pushed back, but at least now it has a firm release date of 11th. Well, I'm going to say this in American terms, February 11th, 2025. Gamescom opening night live will play host to a new gameplay trailer, but there's plenty of more for fans to get excited about.
To be honest, we could leave that there actually, just to make
for sure.
Because I feel it was an interesting conversation before, but maybe I don't want to abuse people's ever reduced attention spans in this modern world, but the reason why this is here, obviously, I have always been intrigued by Kingdom Come Deliverance because it's a medieval simulator, basically. So I've got the first one downloaded and I keep giving it a go, but I need a full weekend on it to get through that first kind of opening 6 hours to substantiate myself in the game, and I haven't found the time for it yet. Maybe this weekend, maybe not.
Medieval Skyrim is what I call it.
Okay.
Okay,
that's sad. That's bizarrely not the reason why I put this news in here, because not that long ago, or maybe quite long ago, depending on how those episodes got released that we recorded, but you and I did talk about a game called The Precinct, which I was upset about getting delayed because it was something that I had my eye on as a palate cleanser towards the back of the year. We talked about that nosing in 2025. We talked a few episodes ago, I think, upon your return from your hiatus with Pastor Longhorn. Pastor Longhorn. He's a gardener in the UK.
Oh, God. Oh, no. You're going to get in trouble, man. Oh, man. When this word gets out on the compound, man, you're going to be doing the potatoes next.
So everything he's let me do as well. I even got one night in his room to be that close to God, and I blew it. I blew it.
That's your bum.
A few weeks ago, when you returned to us from your solo Pastor Longhorn adventure and then regaled us with the stories, and we joined said cult, the Great Ascension, as it's known. We talked about GTA 6. GTA 6 is scheduled to come out next year. And off air, you and I spoke about this, and I think the reason why this is here is there's an awful lot of games getting brave and entering 2025. 2025, to me, if I was a studio, would be completely walled off, because the conversation you and I had off air is GTA 6 even sucking air out of the year it's not even out, 2024? Is it? Because I actually think that it is. And if it is, why the hell would you delay your game into 2025, where most people are going to look at it and go, I'm probably going to wait for GTA 6? Seb, with all that logged in the memory banks, give me your thoughts, good sir.
2025 is shaping up to be a juggernaut, like an absolute juggernaut. GTA is already GTA is just, he's sucking all the air out of that thing. But then, like,
even now,
man, yeah, I'm like, but on the other hand, you probably got what, Death Stranding 2, you have Donkey Kong Country, you have a Pokemon game guaranteed, you have Fable, you have now Kingdom Come Deliverance, Wolverine probably is going to hit that marker.
For sure.
I think Hades 2 is officially going to come out in 2025.
God damn it. Fine, make us wait. I don't care. I just, you've just dropped some big bangers.
Oh, Doom. Yeah, I forgot Doom Avowed.
All equidistant big dogs in the yard, right?
Mm-hmm.
but they look like chihuahuas compared to the biggest dog in the yard. And they're not small
for sure.
dogs, right? So what I don't understand is 2025 just seems like a poison chalice. We talked off air. If GTA 6 launches and it doesn't hit the mark, all the air is going to be taken up in the conversation about how it didn't hit the mark. If it lands and hits the mark, there's going to be numerous shows, YouTube, audio, whatever it is, TikTok, everywhere.
It's going to be talking about every minutia of this game for the end of time. Yeah.
I still get slapped up the backside with 25 details you missed in RDR2. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're still being made now. GTA 6 has literally sucked the air out of the lungs of every game for the next 2 years, bare minimum. Whether it hits or misses, it doesn't matter. Delaying your game into 2025, albeit early, is that the only option available to guys now? If you're going to launch in 2025, get out early. Get your apportioned bit of the space that's left and
I would say
out.
Yeah, I would say, look at, I would say you could say 2025 as the release date. And then when GTA comes out with a hardcore release date, you move the hell out of the way. I think that's what you kind of do. Like if the rumors are true right now, I think they're saying like, some said spring, then some said October, you try to move out
I've heard solid people get behind both dates, so I have no clue at the moment.
But if you're a publisher at that time, I'm like, that means one spring, one's the fall. What do you do? What do you do at that point?
Well, Kingdom Deliverance is obviously feels like he's packing some heat because he's brave enough to come out.
Or maybe Kingdom Come Deliverance is just like, let the chips fall where they may.
The funny thing is, like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, based just off the improvements that they'll put in off the back of 1, scheduled to be a great game.
It looks fun.
How?
It looks funny.
How does that break the meniscus of the casuals that year? It just doesn't. And does COD, does even the mighty COD break the meniscus of GTA? Or do they take a rest next year?
I think there's going to be 4 games that's mainstream next year that people are going to be keyed on, and no matter what happens, they're going to buy next year. And there's only 4, I think. I think there's Pokemon, because that's mainstream. People buy Pokemon if it's good, bad, in between.
It's a
everything.
Given, sadly. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I think there's Pokemon. If Wolverine does hit, it's mainstream enough that I think Wolverine is going to be the mainstream game. So
I think Wolverine looked like a bit of a weird choice from the Marvel
I think it
Studios.
looks rough, but
at the time it felt okay. Wolverine's cool. That's fine. Not seen an X-Men thing in a while. We haven't seen anything from them since Logan. But then off the back of Deadpool versus Wolverine and the associated DVD and Blu-ray release,
yeah, it's a given.
Wolverine's just chucked himself up to the top of the pile again in terms of games that people will be excited about off the back of that movie. So a stroke of genius, luck. I do believe you make your own luck in this world. So someone was thinking that afternoon said.
Yeah, so I mean, if they get that out in 2025, that's another one. People are always fiending to play about the big thing that they just watched.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think that's easy money. The Switch 2 and the Mario game that's associated with it, I think, is number 3. And then number 4 is likely going to be GTA. And then I'll throw in a 5 and 6. It's Call of Duty, and it's going to be NCAA because everyone's going to be so hyped about that.
Now, I was about to ask you if one of these games was going to be NCAA, because I wonder if, obviously the Madden we got was the Madden we got, but I wonder if by the time next year rolls around, we'll see a very NCAA influenced and probably compatible Madden. Thoughts on that?
I think Madden. I've been playing the new Madden lately through early access, and it feels like it's already been influenced by NCAA.
I was expecting this year Madden to get some stick because they wouldn't have been able to implement the changes as quickly from the ground up to an already established game.
They did enough.
That's interesting.
They did enough small things to where I feel like they're saying this is the football thing going forward, like the kickoff and stuff like that, where I told you they changed the kickoff mechanic. They did that in Madden as well. The passing is very similar in both. Madden still feels a little more simulation, as NCAA feels a little more arcadey, but I think that might be like intentional, like you get one, you get the other, but like I feel like they've already sort of implemented a couple of things that make Madden feel a little more NCAA. On the other hand, I feel like Madden also took a step forward this year that they've been hoping they would take for the last like 5 years, in the sense that one-handed catches have been added to where you can do cool little things. They added 13,000 animations. So I'm like, it's been revamped, like completely revamped, as far as like the passing, the animations.
But what about the integration? Because to me, that's NCAA hit well, and it hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
It made the changes that people were looking for, but it didn't make that historic change that you alluded to, where your NCAA can roll into your Madden.
Like the Madden character, like your NCAA character, after you complete your NCAA career, can go into Madden this year.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm like, if you complete like your 4 years and such like that, or sim your 4 years and such, you can bring that character into Madden.
This year's Madden.
Yeah,
because we weren't sure, but now that's been detailed. Interesting.
In the career mode, I do not know about like if you can bring in your.
I only care about career modes in sports games.
I'm more of a manager mode. By the way, I got funny story. I know we have a news story to talk about, like upcoming, but like I tried soccer for the first time in 2 years, like the actual FC soccer game, and this is the only time in my life I've actually gotten fired from being a manager of a club before. I saw, and I don't feel like this is my fault. Like, I signed the resignation papers, but like they relieved me of my position.
Who were you managing? Like the Texas Longhorns or what?
No, like, so in the FC soccer game, right? Soccer 24. I picked what is it? The FC Dallas, because I'm here in Dallas, Texas. So I picked that.
Pastor's trying to work on getting them turned into the Longhorns,
as he should, but so I picked up this organization.
Texas, George, goddammit,
Yeah, I picked up this organization and I started picking up like I figured out how transfers work, evidently, because I had to research that, because I don't know a lot about like how to manage the soccer team.
I know more about baseball than I know about soccer.
That same here, and football and hockey and everything else. Soccer's probably at the bottom as far as my knowledge goes, but like in every other sports game I played, you're always praised for managing the salary cap effectively and also getting the players as cheap as possible, right? Like as cheaper than what you're accustomed to. Well, I got relieved of my duties because I signed a player with, I gave him a higher wage than what he was getting paid for, but I gave him what they say? It was there's a release clause, and I was just like, hey, I'm gonna give you a lower release clause because I'm giving you higher pay wages, and I'm going to give you like a $50,000 signing bonus. I thought that was fair, like that sounds like you're getting paid more, you're getting a high signing bonus, but the release clause, like the team let me go because they said, hey, your release clause doesn't reflect the standards. It minimizes the standards of what that player deserves to get paid. And even though the player agreed to it and his agent agreed to it, this is lower than you basically cheaped him out, and this is unreflective of our agency. You're relieved of your duties.
Wow.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that before.
Would that be acceptable? You've made us look cheap in a backdoor element of our contract.
I uninstalled
agreed to.
Yes, I put in I put in a couple of hours into this, and I was like, oh, I revamped this team. I grabbed a couple of players off the transfer portal. We were already like, we only lost one game out of like 10 so far, and I'm like, oh, I've got this machine turned around. I was thinking, oh man, I thought I'm gonna be manager of the year, and I'm like, I got relieved of my duties. I'm like, I uninstalled the whole damn game at that point. I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. Like, I'm going back to American style sports immediately, because Ted Lasso logic doesn't work in real life.
Doesn't work in a real football simulator, if that's
No.
what that could be classed as. Okay, well, let's draw a line under that. It'd be interesting to see. We've made our predictions. It's going to be very interesting to see how 2025 unfolds from a industry's perspective. We're going to get spoiled with an absolute.
Really quick in the comments before we continue, let me know what I did wrong. Because let me know why the release clause should matter and why I was relieved of my duties. Please let me know. All y'all soccer people.
In general nonsense. We'll let it happen there. Don't go down into sports. Let's make it easy for him. What did he do wrong? Because if he's asking me about baseball, I'll be able to tell him. He's asking me about soccer. And it makes as much sense to him as it does to me. Let's get into
Dip into my soul.
Dip into my soul. We love the headlines. PS1 classics Bloodborne, Legacy of Kain, and Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver are coming to Blaze's Evercade family of systems in a new double pack release. So listen in, Evercade owners. I think Harvey Retro is one of those from memory, and a slew of other Evercade owners across the world and within the show's own listenership. Released in 1996, Blood Omen was developed by Silicon Knights, the same studio that would also create Eternal Darkness for Nintendo. It's a top-down 2D title with CGI characters. It places you in the role of the titular Kain, a murdered nobleman who is respected as a vampire in order to gain revenge on his killers. Released in 1999 and set 1500 years after Blood Omen, the Amy Hennig-directed Soul Reaver sees one of Kain's lieutenants, Raziel, assume the role of protagonist. It was released on the PS1 and PC, reported to Dreamcast in 2000, where I played it initially. Publisher Crystal Dynamics handled development studios. It actually began life as an unrelated project following the resolution of a dispute between the firm and Blood Omen developer Silicon Knights. Since then, the series has continued with entries of Soul Reaver 2, much forgotten, Blood Omen 2, and Legacy of Kain, coming out in 2001, 2002, 2003, respectively. But it's the first two games which are arguably the most acclaimed. These two classic titles from the 32-bit era are still adored by gaming fans to this day, with Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver having sold over 1.5 million units as Blaze. This new Evercade collection sees a combination of the first games, Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, on one physical collection for the first time. The two games will come on a single Evercade Giga Cart, which is playable on Evercade systems and the Super Pocket system. Great game to take on the go. Pre-orders open on August the 30th, with the cart shipping to customers on September the 30th. So, a little bit of retro news for our listeners here. Obviously, the iconic Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. I have no real emotion for the top-down 2D version Legacy of Kain. But Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver is a game that has stuck in my memory since the first time I played it. Played it on the sadly now dead Sega and Dreamcast system.
Sega.
Sega. They
You made yourself laugh.
I know, it's sad that, really. I laugh seemingly loudest and most gutturally at my own jokes, which doesn't say a lot about me as a person. In fact, paints me as a...
It's just a dad thing.
If I'm honest, yeah. 2 seconds.
Okay, everyone, filling in for time real quick.
Yeah.
I think while this is I think this is interesting news. I think this is really a win for digital, video game preservation, really. But like outside of that, I don't necessarily. This is the news that gets me going, for instance. But I think like fans of these games, it's always good to see the games that you love still are remembered and also are being preserved. So I think that's a win. Outside of that, though, I think this is, it's cool, but I don't necessarily know if this gets the new players involved. So shout out to video game preservation, though.
Yeah, I'm back now, bizarrely, and we're going to leave that in because you filled so eloquently. I already know that you did. Pastor Longhorn was having issues with the combined cat. It got a little bit feral, and it had cut him with its claws, serrated claw.
Is that how cats work? I don't have a cat.
Cats are just like deadly dogs, to be honest.
Okay.
They're friendly and they don't need.
George, what do you think of this story? Are you glad that are these games that
right?
Are these games that really like resonated with you back in the day?
Your last comment resonated a little bit. The video game preservation shtick angle of this is a good one, much and to be rewarded. I think Evercade are doing a great job of stitching some bits and bobs together and creating quite the system for the retro collector without even needing to dirty original games. This particular double pack of games, I'm surprised by. It's, you know, I don't know, I might be showing my age, but it still feels like this game came out yesterday, but obviously it didn't. It's 23 years ago at best, maybe more, 25. Either which way, the Amy Hennig directed Soul Reaver, as was written there, is a great game, and I think people need to play. I think it's one of those kind of games that's a signpost towards the single player experience that we enjoy. I actually believe that Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver specifically, is also a nice. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's a game that actually was ahead of its time then and still feels rewarding to play now. It had a really great kind of double universe vibe, so you can walk through the living world and then kind of switch it to be the kind of vampiric. It's been a while since I played it, so correct me in community corrections the exact what's going on here. But like an alternate ghost universe that you could manipulate that manipulated the current time.
Now, did you play initially on what system?
On Dreamcast. Now on Dreamcast,
you had a Dreamcast?
Oh, dude, I've bought every. So it's no surprise that VR2 died because I've bought every console going that normally dies. I pack the game.
You back the loser is.
Yeah. Or whether it's happened so many times now. I wonder if I am the death knell of said console.
You probably bought a Zune instead of a iPod.
I nearly did, which is a scary story. So that says everything I need to say about myself, and therefore I quit the show because I don't know what I'm talking about. Where was I going with that? I think that's a game that still stands up today, and I implore you to get hold of a copy, either emulated or Steam. There was a version of it I had on Vita, which was a PS1 classic version. I would say that the PS1 probably isn't the bestest place to play it now, only because it was towards the end of the console's life, and it was a big ask, right?
And so you're saying like Soul Reaver is the game I should check out? Blood Omen.
Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver is the one that you should check out. It probably tuppence halfpenny on Steam Deck right now, so it'd be interesting for you to get it. And I think as soon as you start playing it, you will see Amy Hennig's fingerprints all over it, and it be almost a prototypical or pro-Magnium man to Uncharted. That's kind of where I take it. It's obviously a different lore and a different storytelling aesthetic because of the world that it's in. You're not going to hear him sort of cutting quips or anything like that, but no, I'd be interested for you to play that, and it's one that I implore everyone to play. And it's nice that that's been recognised and it's made its way onto this double pack, as you said at the top there. That game preservation element, good, and it's all right. It's all right preserving games for time memorial, but what's the point of preserving a game that was terrible? Might as well better off preserve games like this that are good, and we're actually signposts to greater things in the industry and sort of more broadening and interesting narratives.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, like I said, I don't know if this really does. Here's the thing, marinating on this, I don't know what an Amy Hennig game feels like anymore, because I'm like, I just know Uncharted is what she worked on.
Yeah.
All her other games get canceled.
I was thinking about this not recently, but say over the last 6 months. A name popped into my head and I was like, yeah, do you know what? That was a name that carried weight. But obviously since then, she was attached to the Star Wars, I think it was called 1313 project, which I know some of the assets got resalvaged for Jedi Survivor, but not a great deal of that actually survived in the end. And I think that's a shame. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really think we've seen much of her since. Obviously, really reasonably well paid, so probably doesn't need to. I think she's assisted in some story reworks for some games along the way. I think when I checked out at the time, I don't know whether it was her Instagram or some other social media that had a little click round, because I thought, I wonder what Amy's doing now. Certainly not carrying the weight she did off the back of the Uncharted trilogy. which is a shame. And obviously, we never got to see her take of what Uncharted 4 was actually going to be, because the game we ended up getting delivered on her exit was significantly, if not vastly, different to the game that we were meant to be getting. So, yeah, Amy Hennig. If anyone's got any information about that, give me an update on Amy Hennig. I would be equally as interested, really. I think you're right there, Seb. A name that carried a significant amount of weight that really now you could ask some gamers in the street, definitely a casual, ask him who Amy Hennig was, and she would probably think that she was a female 80s wrestler from the
Kurt Hennig's daughter.
or mum.
Yeah, I mean, like, legitimately, well, I'm like, we talked about the touch of death there. I'm like, with you and such like that, like, all of her projects have been canceled lately. And, I think, like, right now she's working on Marvel, was it 1943 Rise of Hydra is what it's called?
That's it. That's it. Yeah, she is. The Captain America game. You're absolutely bang on. Yeah, she is. That's
so I'm
where
like,
she's found herself.
So I'm like, that's where she's working on right now. But then, like,
yeah, but think about this. That'll be her first game in over a decade that actually hit the ground.
Yeah, to actually come out. But then I'm like,
changed in the last 10 years in gaming. It'd be interesting to see if she's kept her, because she was influenced by media outside of gaming. She would watch movies and, write notes and do storyboards on the wall.
She was big in the Uncharted movie, I believe, as well. I think she worked on that.
Interesting. That's a stat I didn't know. That's why you're here. You've got the facts. Only right and proper that she's involved, I suppose. She was, for want of a better word, Nathan Drake's mother, really, wasn't she?
Yeah. But then I'm like, so we saw what Rise of Hydra, the trailer for that with Captain America and Black Panther, where it's not T'Challa, but I think it's T'Challa's grandfather. But like, I think we saw that.
I call it the Captain America game. It might be better if you call that Black Panther game, really, wouldn't it?
I think it's a mixture of both. But I think like we saw that probably 4 months ago at GDC, but we haven't really heard anything else about that game. So it'd be interesting to see if it comes out.
I got a physical print media magazine today.
RP Game Informer.
RP. The only gaming magazine you can buy that covers current gaming that's not an industry magazine is Play Magazine, but it's PlayStation specific. But anyway, I flicked through it and there was an inch by 2 inches tall section about it with a very small capture of Cap's face. And I thought, oh, crikey, if that's where that sits in your most anticipated top 50 games. Oof.
I think it's because no one knows what that game is yet, though. I mean, we only seen little snippets of that in the trailer.
I feel like now might be the time to start speaking quite heavily about it, because if that ends up limping into, I don't
think that's a 2025 game. I'm going to say 2026, but I also think we see a trailer not at Gamescom, maybe at the end of the year at, the Game Awards?
I probably expected one at Gamescom, if I'm honest.
I think you
drag that game out and see what the details are on it, but
here's the thing. I think like people have this illusion that Gamescom is bigger than what it actually is, because like Gamescom opening out live, that is, Gamescom is actually a big convention. It's probably the biggest convention in the world now. But like Gamescom opening night live with Jeff Keighley's thing has always given us nothing burgers, except for, I would say, the biggest announcement that came out of like opening night live might be Dead Island made it come back.
Oh mate,
I was just like, it's never had the pizzazz of a E3 or anything like that.
Based on the conversation we had midway through the news, your predicted top 5 games that are the only ones that are going to break the meniscus of gaming. Just pulled out the Google machine, which is not something I like to do on air because I like to swing off my own knowledge. But 2025 release date for Hydra. I don't hold out much hope for that.
No.
Unless it's early doors. based on the footage that we've seen in the trailers, I pray they can get that out and they've only got to go up against Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, because if it's the other game we talked about, they're done. Not even Marvel or Cap. Maybe. I don't know if I see
it's mainstream enough to where like people are going to check that out.
It's
but
one of those
like,
games that you would see now on a PS2 in a Goodwill for $2.50.
yeah, I was thinking about like Gamescom announcements as far as like Gamescom opening out live, and it's always usually updates more than it actually is like announcements. So I think like the game, I'm just being generous here. I think like I think we're gonna get updates on games we already know about, our DLC expansion announcements, but and maybe one release date. I don't think this is like going to be the Summer Games Fest type deal, or like the what is it, or like the Game Awards level of announcements. I think maybe like I would just be hyped to see like an announcement of like hey, this project is still alive at this kind of presentation.
Mm.
I think like Crimson Desert is a game that sort of like looks like Assassin's Creed, with like where the guy turns into like the Ravens. You remember this game, that trailer that came out?
Yeah.
Yeah, and where you were fighting on horsebacks and such like that. It almost looks like The Witcher meets like Zelda meets like Assassin's Creed. It did look like an amalgamation of like 50 different games. Like that is the game I expect to see. Like, oh, is this still coming out in 2025? Or Age of Empires? Is that game is like, what's the new Age of Empires look like? Civilization is my jam. I expect to see Civilization there.
How are you not playing Anno if Civilization is your jam?
Because I'm playing Civilization.
That's so old and done now. Get it gone.
That's the addiction. It's like Civilization is my No Man's Sky at this point. I played 1,954 hours of Civilization 6.
Oh my God. If I didn't know you already had an absolutely stunning wife, I'd be telling you to get a female in your life. But it
would work.
It would both.
Yeah. And I play indies and all these other games, but like that's the game I'm like, as I'm typing other stuff up, I'm like, oh, let me just boot this up real quick.
That's the sort of highbrow guy you are, and that continues to impress me to this day. Let's draw a line under the news, because
where can people find us, George, as far as the community?
Say again, sir?
Where can people in the community find us? Where can they reach us? Where can they talk to us?
Let me put my teeth in, because it's not often I get this part of it. So
yeah,
if you're listening in, you've heard me or Seb say something that you don't quite agree with, or you've got an opinion or take on the news that we missed, and how, you know what? The conversation is the key to understanding each other. So get in touch with us. And how would you do that? Well, pick us up and you'll get your community correction featured in the show. Alternatively, this is what you need to do to get that correction featured. Email questions at unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com. You can DM us on Instagram or Twitter, or you could join our lively and very hospitable Discord, where you can find that next best gamer friend you never thought you needed. No pressure, no stress. Pop by, have a chat. And we forgot to read out the supporters list last week, so every name we're going to have to do twice when we get to Longhorn's Jam. By the way, Seb, just to prepare you mentally and physically for that. While I'm here, I must say that if you're listening and you support the show, and we're very grateful for you doing so, and you're not in the Discord, etc., we are organising, as per your early adopter perk, a community get-together. But you are going to have to make yourselves known to us a little bit more with an email to questions@unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com, so we can find you on a more easier to manage platform like Instagram or Twitter, or direct message to you. If you're not in the Discord, just so you can join us on said Zoom call and you can maximize your perks for your early adopter status. Let's not burrow that into the ground, because there's literally thousands of you out there that are in the cheap seats, as I call them, the great and the unwashed. You don't contribute, but you listen. Believe it or not, is still as important to us, and we love you for it. So keep in contact, stay listening. The show will always be free, so don't freak out that we're going to suddenly start hiding behind a paywall. We absolutely won't. But if you want to pay more, you do get more. Okay? Doesn't really get any better than that, Seb. With all that sort of community stuff out the way, good sir. Pasta's here. Are you in his good books or not? Because I'm about to let the door open, but I don't know whether. Are you cool with him right now?
I mean, we'll do our best. I'm always, if he's listening, I'm always cool with him.
He's always listening.
Please take me off potato duty. I smell like I smell like spuds. But if he's not listening,
well, he's at the door covered in what I could call potato starch. So he's either done a shift for you, or he's checked your potatoes and you left some skin on. Either which way, it's time for a peek in what we affectionately call Pastor Longhorn's smock, what's nestled between some cult paraphernalia and a dodgy copy of Battlefield Earth this week. These are the new release highlights for the week, August 18th to August 25th, 2024. Listeners, these are out digital or physical, or will be by the time this podcast is in your feed, but could be. Let me tell you now, Seb, these could be region dependent. I was about to say spring, stop, wattle, whoa, but I'm going to say spin round, descend down, let your billowy smock surround you on the floor, pick up your acoustic guitar. I'm going to give you a quick reach round. I'm going to pull out Black Myth Wukong.
Wukong!
Wukong! It's gracing such heady systems as the PC and therefore ergo Steam Deck, PS5 and Xbox Series X. A mention of a Switch port there. It's only a matter of time till we get the 16-bit side-scrolling version of Black Myth Wukong. It's coming out on August.
No chance.
It's in your face. Yes. It's coming out on August the 20th, 2024. Black Myth Wukong is an action RPG rooted in Chinese mythology. You shall set out as the destined one to venture into the challenges and marvels ahead to uncover the obscure truth behind the veil, or beneath the veil, of a glorious legend from the past. Is this going to dethrone Kratos as an action RPG, or is it doing very little to even threaten?
Man.
Oh, what, it is or isn't?
Nah. This is for Soul
doing enough
fans
to
more
threaten
than
Flintlock, Dawn of Siege of Steel, or whatever it was?
Oh yeah, that's dead as disco. And you know, I got a community correction.
Which is dead
by
as
the
disco?
way, that
Wukong or the aforementioned game that I've already forgotten the name of?
Flintlock. Yeah, Flintlock is the one I was associating as dead as disco. And by the way, shout out to Bobby and well, I think it was Bada Bigsta that mentioned that disco is still alive in the community corrections. Which, by the way, you could hit us up just in those memes we just talked about.
We should have read that on air. So Bada Bigsta weighed in with a heavy tone discussing why disco was not dead, which he's right, and Bobby was right. The discos,
for sure,
they're still packed. But I get your overarching thought. Disco is dead.
Yeah. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, it evolved into a new genre now. You know, like EDM, you know, pop, you know, like the kind of stuff. Like disco sort of birthed a lot of different other genres, and now they're their own genres. Disco itself, though, I'm like, I don't see any new disco Saturday Night Fever jams on the radio nowadays. You know,
Freakless Chic.
Yeah, exactly
where it was. Listen, I'm very excited to see you give Pastor a reach round again. Thankfully, the dialogue across the pond causing much confusion here, but I'm sure some UK listeners have raised an eyebrow. What good comes from your reach round of Pastor?
The next game we're talking about its release date is the heavily renowned game known as Concord for PS5 and PC for August 23rd, 24. I laugh, everybody, because as you know, Concord came out with its early beta, and I think 12 of y'all were playing it.
Listen, I've used some of the UCP budget to send a wreath commemorating Concord's life to Sony HQ for the release date of this game.
You wasted all our money for that. money for Concord,
like Butcher would do, dude. It was a $400 fruit basket.
If we're throwing bribes out there, I'm like, tell them to bring back Infamous or something, you know?
This isn't a bribe. This is to consolidate them on the inevitable burying of Concord the day of release.
I understand.
I'm a bit harsh because it's someone's pride and joy. No matter.
You should have wrote on the banana like, "Hey, bring back another Ratchet and Clay car." Like, like wrote some kind of like message on the, hey, instead of this, can we get another Resistance?
Give me a standalone Daxter game. He was locked
Exactly.
on PSP. Now you've enabled him to be on PS5, but I've remembered how good he is, and I just want a standalone game. Yeah, absolutely. Incorporating that much vaunted 4K technology.
What's another PlayStation game that has been on the shelf for a long time? Or like, hey, you can write on the banana, we remember Slack Cooper, just to make sure.
I don't think anyone's forgot him, but I just don't know how they bring him back. I mean, I want to see Greek Kratos, if I'm honest, but there's no chance of that.
Nah. You're going to see Greek Atreus before.
Back. It depends where and how, what you measure as a Sony exclusive, because they have got a game called Sky Odyssey, which they published, if nothing else, on the PS2. So it depends how deep you want to go down that. I mean, Spice World's been rested for a while. Do we get like a PS version of Spice Girls?
Nah, man. I think Toomba coming back was a little bit too much at this point. I think that was too much. And I played Toomba growing up.
I mean, an Infamous would be nice, but we had a PS4 sort of
Yeah, but that was 10 years ago, and at this point.
It was, yeah.
But I'm like...
That does not feel or look like a 10-year-old game, BCW. Still looks great.
What was the vampire game? The Order 18 something?
Oh, yeah, the kind of...
Werewolf
League
Exterminator.
Extraordinary Gentlemen, I would say.
Yeah.
Rip off. Yeah. The Order 1886. Again,
I'm trying to think
that came up last week.
God, why do people remember this game?
Ghost Thingy or whatever it's called, or Primal. We haven't seen those games for 30 years now.
Yeah, that's true.
See that? Parappa the Rapper.
I'd take Parappa over a lot of the games we mentioned now. Like Parappa as like a turn-based RPG or something like that. Make it different,
Well, I tell you what you could do with Parappa the Rapper. You could do a Hi-Fi Rush.
I wouldn't mind that. I actually would. I think that would be really cool. Like, make him like that, or make it like. I would probably say I'd take the PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale 2 now that you actually have a good roster.
Oh God! I mean, how desperate was that when one of your main characters you're swinging off in the advertising is a Big Daddy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you had the roster for it back then. I'm like, I think you have it now, though.
Which is your pasta, by the way? Which one are you going to sit the pasta Vasa to out of those two?
I mean, I'm not playing either one of these, but Black Myth Wukong over Concord for sure.
Okay. And
I think one is going to survive and one's going to die within like 5 months.
To be honest, I don't see Black Myth Wukong having the legs to outstay its initial release window, if I'm honest.
I think it's going to be this year's Liza P.
Ooh, that's bold. I like it, though. I want to get behind it.
Because Liza P it has like a fan base, but then Liza P is not like, it didn't take over the world, but it's coming out at a time that is like the summertime, basically, still that... Yeah, it's going to have like its 3-month time where people are going to rave about this game. So I think like
Black Myth Wukong, this is the episode about release windows, really. But Black Myth Wukong is getting out ahead of Star Wars, but not much.
Here's the thing, though. One's a Ubisoft game and one's a first-time game from a developer that is making a Souls-like game. Souls-like games at this point in time have just like an inherent built-in audience to where everyone's just trying out the new Souls game.
Yeah. Everyone's trying any Mortal Shell. I'll give it a whirl. Did it scratch the itch? No, not really. What's next? Black Myth Wukong.
What was the other one Bobby was into that was like that
Liza P, Mortal Shell.
There was another one. I think it was so unoriginal that they named it the same game. The same thing over like the first one. It was
Dim Souls. Is that what you?
No, Demon Souls was one of them, but
not
then there was like
Souls.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, why don't you do that? Let me. Yeah. I'm going to. Pastor is planning on doing a movie night in the common room this evening, and I was wondering if you could come in with a heady movie recommendation. See if we've got it in the bucket of VHSs in the corner of Pastor's rec room.
Twisters, the new one was pretty good. I actually enjoyed that quite a lot.
Oh, I
Go
don't know
check
if
that
that's
out.
into soft pirate videos though.
Oh,
He's
Lords
not
of the
Ray, is
Fallen
he?
is
He's
what I
not
was thinking of,
Ray.
right?
What, the original Twister?
No, okay, so
He'll have that.
yeah, so Twister, the new one, I think is actually pretty solid. It was actually a decent watch, and
It
then
looks good. I'm going to try and drag myself to the cinema for that, if I'm honest.
yeah, yeah, then Deadpool and Wolverine was pretty fun. 7 out of 10 action flick. I think it's a pretty fun movie.
What are you throwing
And
at Twisters if you're rating movies?
oh, I give that strong 7.5. Like if I'm doing the point 0.5 scale, if I'm forced to do
What? It's
one out
better
of
than
10,
Deadpool versus Wolverine.
I think it's right on par. I
You
think they're
you
right.
wouldn't think it from the ticket stubs, would you?
No, for sure not. Absolutely not. But like, I don't know if we had just a glorious movie outside of Doom 2 this year. Like, that is like, oh, this is like pure top notch cinema this year. I think Gladiators 2 might be that. But like, outside of that, I'm like, I don't think we've had like
I
a
just
king.
can't believe that they've.
Oh,
decided
Inside
to-
Out. I'm lying. Inside Out 2 is like really
I just
good.
can't believe that they decided to make a sequel to Gladiator. There was absolutely no need. They should have just called it something else. And that's once again Hollywood's addiction to not
To
trying
sequelitis.
something new. Yeah, like Gladiator didn't need a sequel, but hey, let's squeeze out a Roman movie and slap Gladiator 2 on it just so we can get the book in. I think it's disingenuous, Seb, and I am.
New IPs right now are like, I think this is across the board in every single medium
It's risk aversion.
right now.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
It's risk aversion.
everyone's scared of new IPs right now, and the market right now is just so volatile that any mistake cancels a studio. You heard the news probably about Paramount and their TV division. I'm like, it's just so scary right now. We're about to hit like a major recession again. But anyways, not a political show. The game I was thinking of was Lords of the Fallen, I believe, and it came out with a direct sequel called Lords of the Fallen again.
I don't know. I know it was in his pile of games he picked up, but I don't know if he got to it or not. So we need to, and Bobby will be back soon, so that'll be great.
Yeah, for sure. He can correct me.
We can have some standalone Bobby episodes that we love. All that said and done, I feel before we let Pasta break into song, we're going to do the supporters, our beloved supporters. We need to shout them out, and we will do. We'll do it twice because we're men of our word, Seb, as you know.
You want to start us out, or you want me to start us out while you're looking for it?
I have it. Well, first of all, we'll start with Carlos, the one man, George fan club. Thank you for that, sir, and to each and every person that supports us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You are making the difference. Who's next, sir?
Trestles, New York.
You got to say it twice. We're contractually
Trestles, New York. Trestles, New York.
All right, we're not. They're a restaurant on Queens in Queens. We don't have the time to. They let us record an episode. Very generous. So I'm going to say Bada Binkster.
Tingle Turner.
I don't know what that was, but it sounded almost like an English accent, and that makes me nervous. I've got to say, and great to see him and his beautiful wife at Timeless. It's Digital Monkery.
Roasted Space Bunk.
The Gaming Gram.
Boba.
Boba. And let me just take a moment to also thank Boba for making the trip up to Bury. Thank you so much there, and also to him and the wonderful Digital Monkery and the Mrs. Digital Monkery for your help behind the scenes. Very, very much appreciated.
Is that far from is that still in the UK or is that like outside of the UK?
Bury.
Uh-huh.
It's in the UK. It's right in the heart of Middle England, Northern England.
Okay, cool. All right,
and I'll do this one actually because I've got my teeth in. Looking to get him on the show very soon to discuss some of that sweet CEX buying that he's doing out there on his own YouTube channel. It's the immortal Marathon Gaming. Make sure you go check out his independent channels. He was at Timeless. very wonderful man to spend time with. So it was a wonderful experience for us all. Who's next?
This is Seal Master Elliot. Seal Master Elliot.
My red-headed, beautiful, big-armed son, Ginge Ginge.
Emma Sharp. Emma Sharp.
We're now contractually obliged, just so you know going forward, to confirm that Emma Sharp is not on the dating apps.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations. Never mind. Depending on how you want to look at it. Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's the only way you can look at that. Harvey Retro.
Nowhere near Berlin. Nowhere near Berlin.
This one said twice is going to sound like I need my bottom wiping in the downstairs toilet, but Mumsy.
The RGT fan club. The RGT fan club.
I think we can contractually only need to say that. No, we'll leave it in. Pete, let's do it 3 times. The RGT fan club. I'm not jealous. I am. Pete Brocklehurst.
Billy Marmite.
There's the aforementioned Marmite said. Simon Pryke. Oh, and that means, do you want to do a
Rats. Zangief.
You left nothing on the table in that performance, and I'm very proud of you. I was going to say it as well, but I don't feel I can do it justice. If you're wondering why we read all those names out, it's because they are our supporters. They financially contribute to the show. You don't have to, but should you want to, the tiers start at $3 for a readout on every show, $5 for a readout on every show and art merch yearly, $8 readout on the show on every show, art merch yearly, plus access to the Inglorious Chat, $10 readout on every show, art merch yearly, plus access to the Inglorious Chat and quarterly Zoom chat with hosts. Get your eye on the Discord because that's being organised as we speak. Looking forward to seeing each and every one of you sexy sons of a guns.
So, George, with that said, before the pastor comes in...
I had one last piece of information.
Okay,
the
go
early
ahead.
adopter packs are done and dusted, guys. You did miss the opportunity. We did extend it and left it open for a massive window. I've regaled to you the wonderful perks and tiers that we're doing. But bear in mind, if you do join... over the next month or so, especially if we hooked up with you at Timeless and you want to kind of see that through to its full conclusion, I will find a way of sending you a little something. Not an early adopter box, because obviously you missed that window, but much like Carlos recently was lucky enough, we were lucky enough for Carlos to support us. We made sure he got the, immediately got the album art, cult doorway album art, aka the 2 aliens, on a t-shirt. Thank you for that, Carlos. Seb, I cut you short because I had some business to take care of, but the business has now been taken care of, and we can slide into what fun and frolics you had planned for us, sir. I am willing and able for your word.
First thing, what are you hoping to play this week?
I love it when you mix it round. You're the only one that mixes it round. What am I hoping to play? Oh, here we go. I have got on the go a few things that I want to clear up. Last week, and I didn't mention it at the top of the show, and apologies, I downloaded the new Mafia made by friend of the show, or one of the people that worked on that game was friend of the show, Retro Gamer Boy, a.k.a. Mike Rouse, the man that brought you PlayStation Home and PlayStation Trophies. What a god. He worked on that with Hangar 13. It's the first time I've played it. I played it on PS2. But yeah, so far thoroughly enjoyed it. It's very linear. Why did they even make that city? It is very linear. But I'm very much enjoying it. The story is what's keeping me coming back. The gameplay...
middle of the road?
Has been improved, but nothing to write home about. So it's serviceable, Seb. It's serviceable.
Okay.
Off the back of that, I've also been I re-downloaded RoboCop and I've pushed forward that a little bit more. I was hoping by now there'd be a fix to sort the cinematic crashes out that seem to happen every time they flick between characters. They haven't, but I'm just choosing to ignore it and push on with a great game. A little bit more Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster on the Switch, which again is another game I forgot to regale you with at the top of the show. My apologies. And I'm looking forward to getting back onto Dave the Diver and getting the I don't like serving in the restaurant, said, but I don't mind supplying the restaurant with a supply of
Yeah.
fresh fish. Good sir, what are you hoping to play in this next gaming week?
Let's see. Let's see what's on the docket for me. It looks like one of your, I think this is a part of your country's gaming history is Thank Goodness You're Here. Have you heard about this one?
I don't know. I'm probably being a bit dumb in this moment, but no. Tell it to me as if I'm fresh to it.
So thank goodness you're here. It is a absurd comedy slapformer. So like a slapstick indie platformer set in the bizarre northern English town of Barnsworth. So yeah, so basically,
Oh, God.
have you seen it? Thank goodness you're here. Are you looking at the trailer?
No, I can be. I
So
feel
it's
a bit ashamed that a game's passed me by. So what's this one called?
thank goodness you're here. Like you are here. So thank goodness you're here. It was released August of this past year. So I'm like August 1st of 2024. Let's see. Players take the role of a traveling salesman who performs odd jobs for the residents of a bizarre town in northern England.
Ooh.
It is for the people listening, it's almost like
Oh, dude, what am I saying? Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I'm aware of this game.
yeah, it's
Sorry.
almost like a Cartoon Network Saturday morning cartoons type of vibe as far as like
Absolutely is.
the
It's
way
been out a while. I've actually read historically. I've read some reviews. I don't know why it didn't stick in my head. I think that title just threw me completely off. I had bloody Children of Hinterland in my mind, and
yeah, it does. It doesn't necessarily look. I think the title doesn't really do the game justice as far as like getting people on board of this
its
type of game. But
findability, I think, is restricted a little by that.
yeah, for sure.
I don't think it's. I think the market. We talk marketing teams. I think they've done a good job of getting it out there, and I've seen some gameplay interstitials.
Word of mouth is so good for this, and this is one. They sent me a copy of this one, so I'll check this one out to see how good it actually is. Because I'm about to do the indie game countdown on that show, on my other show, the Single Player Experience podcast. By the way, check that out, everyone.
I was going to give you a chance to pump it, but you've done it yourself. So.
Yeah, I'm just a modern day plugger, evidently. But then, but
At least you're
I'm
not
gonna
a
be playing.
Bluetooth butt plugger.
Yeah. At least I'm not that. At least I'm not that. But then, like, yeah, I think 1000X is another one that I'm hoping to play for the indie game countdown. X Resist. It is almost like a Persona meets like a. It's a thrilling sci-fi, but it's a thrilling sci-fi that's kind of like a Persona meets like a what's the game with the little girl where she's Nier meets Persona kind of vibe.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It evidently, this has been getting a lot of 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s across the board right now.
Turn-based or action game?
It is, I think, a action game, but it has some. It almost has a little bit of Bayonetta vibes as well.
Mm. The persona element again, is that what the social stat building? Or
Yeah, it's the social stat building and also like the art style. The art style is kind of like
I'll be honest with you. I think we've probably underappreciated Persona's influence on a lot of things. And it's starting to become very apparent.
A little oversaturated. Yeah,
getting a little bit Souls-like in this room right now, and Persona is good for a multitude of reasons, and I don't think it's just I don't think it's an easily copyable recipe. If I'm honest with you.
It is that it's the 3 art style of like early Persona is like a lot of indie games can do that art style. So they do that art style,
Yeah.
And especially the Japanese anime style like centric games, I'm like it just lends itself to that kind of so well. And I think we're just now scratching the surface of like the wave of games to come out with this type of Bayonetta Persona style art is going to be like. But like
it's the gameplay elements I would like to see stitched in more.
Yeah, I think that's for a lot of people, but this is more, I would probably say more Bayonetta or more like near than actually like Persona as far as like gameplay wise. But then like the I do think like the storytelling is also like hard hitting, more like a Persona than Bayonetta though,
Right.
from the early hour of this game. But then like yeah, this one has I this one has over 941 positive, overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam right now.
That's nice to see.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's definitely a game that I think more people need to hear about, and I want to actually give it its time to
Oh,
actually see whether or not
BT.
it's going to get my
On that
recommendation.
note of reviews, and this probably we should have discussed this at the top of the show, but I did here, and I can't wait. I cannot wait to see this unfold if they do it, if they do roll it out wide. But Sony are flirting with written reviews on top of the star ratings for the games on their store.
You know, it depends. I think like
Who's
I think that
moderating that on that scale? No one is. There's going to be some of the best things ever written on these reviews.
I do think they should implement the Steam thing of like you have to play these games in order to review it. Like
Now
it's a
that,
certified play.
yeah, that would reframe that on
Yeah.
any console store. It. Do you know what? I've talked about it before. One of the things I think the marketplaces and the stores are lacking is any kind of moderation or curation. It's obvious from some of the games that they've trotted out that they've put their seal of quality on that I wouldn't even wipe my backside with. So these reviews could actually solve from a manpower point of view of having someone there moderating these reviews and or collating them or doing whatever with, but also solve their sort of curation problem. Because if you could order it by stars, all of a sudden you're just not going to see those ones and twos mobile ports, which, and here's another guilty party, Nintendo. Their store is a literal car crash.
Oh, it's absolutely trash.
It's verging on the. If I was a true casual and I got a Switch because I do believe it's a pick-upable gaming device, not only from a monetarily point of view, but certainly sort of its investiture into your life is minimal compared to the others. You go on that store, how the hell
do you find anything worthwhile that's not like Nintendo first party?
Because let's say you're a casual, so you're cold to reviews, you're cold to podcasts, you're cold to everything. So you've gone on there and you've seen not the official farming simulator game, but Farming Tractor Simulator 2024 for £1.79. And you think, well, that must be the hallmark of quality. It's on Nintendo's store. It's in the sale. Then you get hold of it. You realize
it's rough.
It's worse than rough. It's literal dog sick.
Yeah, so I would probably, I think like, don't get me wrong, the Steam store is not perfect, but like one thing I do think of like the Steam store is like they curate it for what you like as soon as they get like a 9-game preference of what your library is like and what you are actually playing.
Nice.
And then your discovery queue is like very curated towards, hey, you like these type of games. This is a game that is like either on sale and it is very much in the same kind of like micro genres that you like, or I'm like, I think that's really cool. And then like they also have the top of the charts list for that's genre specific. And I think that's like that is a boon that I think like the Nintendo store should have, to where like, oh, I'm like, I can create my wish list, but I can also like see games in certain genres and see what people are talking about. What No, but it's infected. It's bloated.
Yeah, it's push that to one side, and we're looking at the slew of your other developers, your triple A's, your double A's, your A's, your indies, whatever it is, which way you want to look at it. Mm-hmm. Have some strength in the conviction that your platform actually has got some great games that need to have their value sung, because that store doesn't do a terribly great job of selling you on the concept of some of these. but I just think some extra curation would stop people from buying. And I've come close, dude, and I would say I'm an experienced gamer my whole life. I've been on that store and nearly pushed the button on some absolute drivel.
So like on the Steam store, for instance, like you could see top sellers, new and trending, and then on the new and trending side, it legit shows you like I would say there's games here that I haven't heard of, but they're games that also like I look at it and I go down that list. It's mostly positive, very positive. It's like sensational, all that, you know.
This way, when I eventually get a Steam Deck,
oh man, your life is changing.
Do you like what I've done there? I cannot wait to see off the back of the DOS tap that I download from Steam what my recommendation wheel looks like, because I tell you what, not even Steam themselves saw me coming, Seb. I tell you now.
I do think like we joke around about all this, but like I do think once you see all the games that you can get and how much cheaper you could get them, I think that's the part that's going to change your life.
I think the thing that appeals to me about Steam is some of the more sort of genre-defining sort of oddball games that I would be into that wouldn't normally break the minutes because they wouldn't get onto PlayStation, wouldn't get onto Xbox, might get onto Switch, but
very rarely. Like I think there's one like crime scene cleaner is one that I think is I looked at that game the other day and I was like, oh, that's a George game, because I'm like, you're going in and you're cleaning up the crime scene, and like this feels almost like your Canoe crime scene investigator, like that simulator type thing where you're just doing monotonous things, but you're doing it in an interesting enough a way to where I'm like, oh, that it's
I just hope Steam Deck's got the button combinations required for me to play an in-depth sim on it, basically.
I mean, I did Car Wash Sim like pretty thoroughly. Like
I know, but I'm talking, multiple button inputs, maybe even like a World War II bomber simulator. I feel like my Steam Deck experience is going to involve me carrying around a Bluetooth keyboard. If I'm honest with you.
No. So I think that's fair, but I also think
I'm not anti that idea, and maybe that's one that I would use when I kind of flag it to the TV. It makes sense to play those games there like that with a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and using the Steam Deck almost like a PC mule. But I think I'm excited for the more controller heavy games that I've missed.
Yeah. I think you'd be surprised on how well the trackpad works on the Steam Deck.
Do you know what? I'm up for giving it a go. I just don't know how you're going to be able to do sort of flaps down, gear down, throttle down, lock on. That seems to me like that would be hard work on a even if the touchscreen, as you say, is flawless.
No, not the touchscreen, but the trackpad.
The trackpad is flawless. Yeah, that's fine, but when you're,
and then you also have buttons on the back you can map to anything you want.
Okay, well that's missiles and guns, but now I need flaps, ailerons. But that's the sort of thing I'm excited to get stuck into. So when I eventually get the Steam Deck, it's those games. It's like being at the forefront of that movie simulator game that we talked about, the kind of spiritual sequel to the movies. I think you played it 3 or 4 weeks ago. In the movies or whatever it was called.
A couple months ago. It's a really cool experience, but I'm like,
it's begging, the only way I'm going to be able to play that is on Steam Deck. So that's kind of where I'm heading, because my aged Mac here, right? You can't even run these 2005 movies.
So
this new one.
Yeah, I think once you cross that threshold to where, like, let's say you any of these, and I think like your best bet is if Xbox makes that portable handheld. Because if Xbox makes that portable handheld, and
if they make that portable handheld, and the rumor that I'm still struggling to believe, which is allegedly true, which I will not believe until I see it substantiated, and I'm erring on the side of caution that they lock the Steam store into the Microsoft store on console. On PC, it seems like a no-brainer. On console,
I mean, they can't stop you. A PC, you just do whatever app you want. But
exactly. But to make that available to Xbox console players, I cannot. People tell me it's true, and I'm like, you tell me how that works. Okay, I don't
think they'd be able to stop you from running OS, because like here's I don't think it's going to be native, but like like so for the ROG Ally, for instance, the ROG Ally, it has the native Xbox app associated with it, and it also has a form
But
of
Seb, just so we're completely clear, the dirty rumor doing the rounds is that Microsoft have or have not got a deal with Steam, and this will be in Community Corrections HG Games. He's wet.
yeah. I remember us talking about this. Yeah,
You know, I just don't see how you make. I know there's a compatibility box you click in the background, right? I get all that, but making sure every single take that flight simulator game I use as an example. Like, I know they've got Microsoft Flight Simulator, perfect, okay, great game, but it's been consoleized. These games are legacy games on the Steam store that were never considered to be console releases, therefore mapped to a controller, i.e., button combinations, left bumper, and a combination or clicking of right stick unlocks a secondary menu field, etc., etc. It's those older games that were never thought of to be used through the controller connectivity that I just do not understand how you're able to tick a box on compatibility and force that onto the Xbox Game Store. PC, totally, absolutely, completely through the Microsoft Games Pass store or system. Totally get it. Much like Antstream, which is also
you just don't make those eligible. You like for instance, I'm like, not everything on Steam Deck is eligible for the Steam Deck, you know? It's like
so
the Steam Deck.
I suppose the safe bet then is anything with Steam Deck compatibility already approved and usable is something.
Yeah, you just make it for the new device.
Make it for the new device or make it for Series X, I think is where I was going. It's the lack of built-in keyboard, etc. on those systems. I know they support USB keyboard, they support Bluetooth keyboard, but you can't sell a piece of software to an end user in the console world without making it clear to them that you're going to need to invest in A, B, and C peripheral to be able to use the game. And that's the confusing part.
It's the reason why WoW isn't on everything right now.
Case in point, good. I love the way that you come along and prove my point with information that I didn't even.
Yeah, like it's. But the crazy thing is like WoW, and keep in mind I've never played WoW. I've only seen other people play it. But like Diablo was WoW back in the day of like the very similar game size, and now Diablo's on everything. It's just a matter of, do you want WoW to be on everything? And because like everything now has everything now that if you want to see it ported, it's getting ported slowly to consoles, to controller schemes.
I think so. I mean, this latest World of Warcraft re-rendition or whatever it is, I've seen advertised, and they've got an advertising budget, obviously.
Yeah.
And when I saw the trailer roll, I thought, why are they wasting time on this? They should have got this on console.
I completely agree. But
it would have done their findability, it would have done their sort of competitiveness versus Diablo, whichever which way you cut it. Very, very, very similar games. Same requirements from the user in terms of time and investment.
If you wanted to know, like, if people are willing to invest in a big RPG that is very heavily rooted into computer mechanics, and you were scared about making that jump to console, you shouldn't be anymore, because Baldur's Gate proved it. Made it easy. Baldur's Gate is the deepest RPG that you can find, to where like it is a computer game, but on the console it plays really well. So I'm like. Yeah, and people showed up for it. So I'm like, if they show up for that, they'll show up for WoW.
I noticed Harvey Retro had started his third playthrough, and this time he's going through as like a bard or something. It's like, yeah, that game.
I'm hankering for it again. Yeah, I'm hankering for it again. Like, I don't think there's a game that came out this year that has unseated that longing for a lot of people for Baldur's Gate. Just more Baldur's Gate.
That's a game that kind of came out of nowhere. Would kind of prove my point in some ways about how they probably need keyboards. Well, no, they made it work with the controller. Fair enough. Okay.
Made it work really good with the controller too.
Exactly. So I'm like,
yeah.
But that's the sort of compatibility I'll be looking for from Steam's Xbox integration. It's got to be that good. And if you're not willing to put the time on it, you shouldn't You shouldn't put it out there. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. I do believe Pastor has gone absolutely stark raving crazy. I thought he was asleep, but it was actually a meditation.
Nah, he's mad.
He's woken himself from now, and he looks to be tuning up the guitar. Seb, really, the only thing left for me to do is to thank you for your time and to thank the listeners for their time. And we look forward to the pleasure of speaking to you again next week. Until then, happy gaming. And remember, there's nothing wrong with being the unofficial being. Do you know what? 230 some odd episodes, still can't say it right. There's nothing wrong with being given the unofficial control. It's what you do with it that counts. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Take care, Seb.
Bye, everybody. Peace.
George and Seb rolling down the road, RGT riding shotgun, a heavy load. Pastor Longhorn waiting to unfold. In El Paso, Texas, tales been told. One arm big, a sight to see. Pastor preach, set you free. George and Seb, they bend the knee. RGT nodding yes in glee. Join the cult in El Paso town, where Pastor Longhorn's got his crown. One arm high, the other down. We're the wildest show around. Sunday's hot, the desert air. George and Seb both feel the glare. Longhorn's words hang everywhere. Salvation found without a care. Sunday's hot, the desert air. George and Seb both feel the glare. Longhorn's words hang everywhere. Salvation found without a care. RGT plays a sacred tune underneath the El Paso moon. Longhorn grins from afternoon to the night, they'll see it soon. Join the